Hello, everyone, and welcome to Toronto Apologetics. I'm your host, Tony Costa. Real glad that you guys can join me today for this particular session and lesson. Today, we're going to be looking at a very important topic in Islam, and we want to deal today with the subject, the question really, is Allah really unique? The likeness of Allah to his creation and his entrance into his creation. Now, in Islam, the Islamic teaching is that Allah is utterly unique and transcendent. There is nothing like him. And so in Surah 112, for example, Surah Al-Ikhlas, it says that he is Allah, he is the one, he begets not, nor is he begotten, and there is no one like him. He is incomparable. He is non-comparable to anything within his creation. And so because Islam has a very high view of transcendence of Allah, they believe that he is unlike anything in all of his creation. I want to challenge that idea using the Islamic sources themselves, not the Bible, nor anything outside of Islam. I want us to look at the very texts of Islam and see whether or not this claim is supported by the Islamic texts. So in the Qur'an, in Surah 42, verse 11, it says, he, that is Allah, is the originator of the heavens and the earth. He has made for you pairs of you or your own selves. And of the cattle also he has made pairs. He multiplies you therein. There is nothing whatever like unto him. And he is the all-hearing, the all-seeing. Now notice in this verse in the Quran, it points out about Allah that there is nothing whatever like unto him. He is spoken of as the originator of the heavens and the earth, that is the creator, and that he has created pairs in terms of human pairs and also in terms of animal life. He has created pairs. And this is the means by which he procreates through these male-female unions. But the important point to see here in the Quran is that it says there is nothing whatever like unto him. That is to say, Allah is so transcendent, so incomparable, that there's nothing like unto him in creation. The Quran also points out in Surah 16, verse 74, it says, so put not forward similitudes for Allah, that is, likenesses, examples to compare Allah to. And the commentator in this Quran, rather the translator of this Quranic version, says, as there is nothing similar to him, nor he resembles anything, truly Allah knows and you know not. So notice here that the Quran forbids people from making similitudes for Allah. And that is to say, there is nothing similar to him, nor does he resemble anything. And so the Quran is very clear that Allah has no likeness or resemblance to anything in creation. And so verses like these are usually cited by Muslim apologists to show that Allah is absolutely transcendent. But now we run into a bit of a problem, because the Quran also goes on to say in Surah 24, verse 35, Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. A likeness of his light is as a niche in which is a lamp. The lamp is in a glass, and the glass is, as it were, a brightly shining star, lit from a blessed olive tree, neither eastern nor western, the all whereof almost gives light through, though fire touch it not. Light upon light. Allah guides to his light whom he pleases, and Allah sets forth parables for men, and Allah is cognizant of all things. So notice here in this verse of the Quran, in chapter 24 of the Quran, verse 35, notice it says that Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. Now here, the Quran is comparing him to the light that we see in the heavens and the earth, whether it's the sunlight, whether it's the, the sunlight that is projected or reflected off of the moon, or the light of the stars. Notice that Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth, a likeness of his light. So now the Quran is saying that this light in the heavens and the earth is a likeness of his light. And so notice it compares Allah's light to the light of the heavens and the earth. And the Quran openly admits here that it is a likeness of his like, which means that Allah is like something in the world. That is to say, Allah is like the light in the heavens and the earth. But then the Quran just told us that there is nothing like him. There is nothing comparable like him, and he cannot be compared to anything. Notice the Quran here seems to contradict what we just read, because it points out that Allah's light in the heavens and the earth is a likeness of his light, is as a niche. It's comparing his light to a niche which is in a lamp. And then it explains that lamp as the lamp is in a glass, and the glass as it were a brightly shining star. So notice it is making comparisons to Allah's light. So is there anything like Allah in all creation? Yes. Light, the light of the heavens and the earth, is a likeness to his light. Therefore, Allah is like his creation. And therefore, now we are confronting a contradiction, a tension within the Quran. First, it tells us there's nothing like him in all creation. And now it's telling us that the light of Allah is like the light of the heavens and the earth. It's like a light which is in a niche, which is in the lamp. And it compares that light to a lamp as well. And so here we are confronted with a serious tension and contradiction within the Quranic text. Now, it doesn't just happen here. We also find that not only is Allah like his creation, that he is like the light of the heavens and the earth, as we just saw in Surah 24, verse 35, but the Quran also shows us that Allah can enter into his creation. And yet, what do we hear from our Muslim friends over and over and over and over again is that you Christians teach that God took on human flesh, that God became man in the person of Jesus Christ. And that is an affront to the majesty and the transcendence of Allah. The transcendence of God is such, his majesty is such, that he is so transcendent and so unlike his creation that he could never enter into his creation. Well, there's one thing in Islam that Allah can't do. According to Islamic apologists, Allah cannot enter his creation and become a human being, or he cannot take on a material form. That's not a problem for the God of the Bible, because the God of the Bible has been doing that since the Garden of Eden. When he walked in the Garden of Eden and he communicated with Adam and Eve, and we see him throughout the Bible appearing in the Old Testament as the angel of Yahweh, and also in the New Testament, we see God appearing in the greatest expression of his revelation in the Incarnation. And so the God of the Bible can enter his creation. The God of Islam cannot do that. There is something in Islam that God cannot do. He cannot enter his own creation. But is that supported by the Quran? Is that supported by the very texts that Islamic apologists and Muslims go to? Well, let's look at this passage here in Quran 27, verse 8, Surah 27, verse 8. Just to give you a bit of a background, the story related in this surah is the story that many Jews and Christians are familiar with, where Moses comes to the burning bush. He sees a bush on fire, a tree on fire, and he is attracted to this wonder. And so he comes to see why it is that this bush or tree is on fire and it's not consumed, it's not being burned up. And so we see this in the Bible in Exodus 3, and we learn in Exodus 3 that the Lord is in the fire, that God is in the fire, and he speaks to Moses from the burning bush, according to Exodus 3, verses 1, 2, and following. Now, what is interesting is the Quran also relates this story, the story of Moses at the burning bush. No doubt, Muhammad would have heard the story many times from the Jews in Medina, for example. So I've presented here a number of translations by various English translators. Some of them are Muslim, some of them are not. But I want you to see how this verse in the Quran speaks of Allah entering his creation, that Allah is in the fire that is in the bush or the tree. And Allah is not only in the fire, but Allah is speaking to Moses. I want you to notice how some of the translators struggle with this idea, particularly the Muslim translators, as they try to translate the Arabic words into English. And notice the tension in these verses. So we'll begin first with Pickthall's translation at the top. But when he, that is Moses, reached it, that is the burning bush, he was called, saying, "Blessed is whosoever is in the fire, and whosoever is round about it, and glorified be Allah, the Lord of the worlds." So notice that the Quran says here, "Blessed is whosoever is in the fire." Now, who is in the fire? Well, someone is in the fire, and the one who is speaking to Moses is Allah. But how can Allah be in the fire, since fire is a created thing? Fire is a created thing. We know that because we are familiar with energy called fire. But Allah is not outside the fire. Notice it says Allah is in the fire and he's round about it. So notice the phrase in the fire. He's in his creation. Now notice in Yusuf Ali's translation, he tries to switch the Arabic language there, because in the Arabic, it uses the singular pronoun there. But notice what Yusuf Ali does. And Yusuf Ali is one of the translators of the Quran that I find is very unreliable, in the sense that he distorts the meaning of the Arabic. He does not present a full, clear, honest translation of the Quran in many passages in his translation. So notice Yusuf Ali, but when he, Moses, came to the fire, a voice was heard. "Blessed are those in the fire and those around, and glory to God, the Lord of the worlds." Notice that Yusuf Ali now speaks of those. He's using the plural pronoun, even though the Arabic uses the singular pronoun. Blessed are those in the fire. Well, who's in the fire? Who are those who are in the fire? And who's speaking to Moses? Isn't it Allah that speaks to Moses from the burning bush? Now he says, "Blessed are those in the fire and those around." Who are those? Are they angels? Is that what the Arabic says? So Yusuf Ali is being very ambiguous here. Not just ambiguous, he's not being straightforward. Notice Hilali Khan's translation. But when he, Moses, came to it, the fire, he was called, "Blessed is whosoever is in the fire, and whosoever is round about it, and glorified be Allah, the Lord of the Alamin," that is mankind, jinns, and all that exists. That's why it's translated sometimes the worlds. But notice in Hilali Khan's translation, "Blessed is whosoever is in the fire." Well, who is the whosoever who's in the fire? It's Allah. Allah is in the fire. Allah is in his creation. He's in not only in created fire, but Allah is speaking within time and space. That is to say, the words that Allah is going to give to Moses are words that are bound within time and space. Look at Shakir's translation. "So when he," again Moses, "came to it," that is the burning bush, "a voice was uttered saying, 'Blessed is whoever is in the fire, and whatever is about it, and glory be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds.'" But notice it says, "Blessed is whoever is in the fire, and whatever is about it." Well, who is in the fire? Once again, you notice there's this reticence upon these translators to be very open and straightforward about this, because the tension here is that Allah can actually be in his creation. Now, notice when we look at Sherry Ali's translation, notice here he becomes a lot more clear. "So when he, Moses, came to it, the burning bush, he was called by a voice, 'Blessed is he who is in the fire, and also those around it, and glorified be Allah, the Lord of the worlds.'" So notice here, at least Sherry Ali now will use the pronoun he. Blessed is he who is in the fire, not outside the fire, but blessed is he who is in the fire. Who's in the fire? It's Allah. Allah enters his creation. The fire is created, and Allah speaks within time and space to Moses. But notice in Sherry Ali's translation here, he says, "Blessed is he who's in the fire and also those around it." Well, again, who are those? Now, the Arabic there can sometimes have a plural reference to it, But in this context, it's clear that it's Allah who's in the fire, and it's clearly singular. In Khalifa's translation of the Quran, he says, when he, that is Moses, came to it, the burning bush, he was called, blessed is the one who is speaking from within the fire and those around it. Glory be to God, Lord of the universe. So notice here that in Khalifa's translation, blessed is the one who is speaking. Well, who is the one who is speaking to Moses? Well, it's Allah. And where is he speaking? Within the fire. He's in the fire. And then he adds, and those around it. Well, again, who are those around it? Because it's very clear from the context, it's Allah who speaks to Moses. But whichever way you look at it, Allah is in the fire. And then in Arbery's translation, the translators we're going to be looking at are English translators, and they're not necessarily Muslim practicing theologians or Muslim apologists, but they are translators who know the Arabic tongue, know the Arabic language, and have translated the Quran into English as well. So in Arbery's translation, he says, so when he, Moses, came to it, that is the burning bush, he was called, blessed is he who is in the fire, and he who is about it. Glory be to God, the Lord of all being. So notice in Arbery's translation, he's very straightforward with the Arabic text. He clearly knows and translates the singular pronouns as he. Blessed is he who is in the fire. Once again, who is in the fire? Allah is in the fire. And he who is about it. He's not just in the fire, he's about the fire. And so here we once again see the clear reference to Allah being within his creation. Allah enters his creation. And then we have Palmer's translation where Palmer says, but when he, Moses, came to it, the burning bush, he was called to, blessed be he who is in the fire, and he who is about it, and celebrated be the praises of God, the Lord of the world. So notice in Palmer's translation, much like Arbery, he understands the singular pronoun is referring to Allah, and so blessed be he who is in the fire, and he who is about it. Where's Allah? He's in the fire. He's in his creation. And we want to look at two more English translators. In Rodwell's translation, he says, and when he came to it, he was called to, blessed he who is in the fire, and he who is about it, and glory be to God, the Lord of the worlds. Notice again, these English translators are being very straightforward. They're telling you exactly what the Arabic text is getting at, and that is the one who's in the fire is Allah. Blessed is he who's in the fire, and he who is about it. And glory be to whom? Notice it's glory be to God, the Lord of the worlds. This is a reference to Allah. And so here, once again, we see Allah is in his creation. And then in Sale's translation of the Quran, he translates it this way. And when he, Moses, was come near unto it, that is the burning bush, a voice cried unto him, saying, blessed be he who is in the fire, and whoever is about it, and praise be unto God, the Lord of all creatures. So notice here, once again, just like Rodwell, what is Sale saying? He is saying that the one who is blessed is the one who is in the fire. And so when our Muslim friends say that Allah can never enter into his creation, that is a pagan idea, that this is a Christian idea that Christians perverted and so forth and so on. The Quran is making very clear here that Allah entered into his creation. He entered, he was in the fire, and he spoke from the fire. And so the Quran contradicts what our Muslim apologist friends are telling us. It tells us that Allah is able to enter into his creation. And finally, I want to leave you with this question. Is Mary, the mother of Jesus, greater than Allah? Is the mother of Jesus, Mary, or the Quran refers to her as Maryam, is she greater than Allah? Now, why would I make such a question? Why would such a question be raised? Well, in Surah 6, verse 101, it says, wonderful originator of the heavens and the earth. How could he have a son when he has no consort? And he himself created everything, and he is the knower of all things. And so the Quran says in Surah 6, verse 101, that Allah is the originator of the heavens and the earth, the creator, the sustainer of the heavens and the earth. And then it asks this question: how could he have a son when he has no consort, since he created everything and he knows all things? In other words, when Christians were saying that Jesus was the Son of God, the message that Muhammad would give back to them is, well, how can Allah have a son since he has no wife? He has no consort to have a son. And so since he created everything, he doesn't need anything. That's the point of this verse. But the verse is stating that how can Allah even begin to have a son if he has no consort? He can't have a son. He has no consort. He has no wife. But then when we look at Mary in Qur'an, Surah 3, verse 47, the second quote there, when Mary was told that she was going to be the mother of Jesus in the Quran, it says, she, Mary, said, "O my Lord, how shall I have a son when no man has touched me?" He said, so it will be, for Allah creates what he wills. When he has decreed something, he says to it, only be, and it is. So Mary here, in response to the announcement that she was going to be the mother of Jesus in the Quran, Isa al-Masih, her answer to the suggestion that she was going to be the mother of a child while being a virgin, her response is, how can I have a son when no man has touched me? That is, I'm not married. I don't have a husband. How can I have a son? Very interesting question. How can Allah have a son if he has no consort, no wife? Mary says, how can I have a son when I have no husband? I don't know any man. But something happens here, because in Surah 19, verse 27, we're told there, third quote there, then she, that is Mary, brought it, that is the baby Jesus, to her people. She delivered the child, according to the Quran, Surah 19, under a date tree, a palm date tree. And she brings the child to her people carrying it. And they're surprised that she has a child. She is unmarried. She's a virgin, presumably, at this point. And they're wondering, oh, Mary, thou hast done an extraordinary thing. The Arabic word there is the Arabic word fariya. And fariya in Arabic refers to something that is an unheard mighty thing. It's an unheard mighty thing. It's an extraordinary thing. It's a strange thing. It's something that cannot be explained. And so notice here that Mary has a child without having a husband, a man, and Allah can't have a son because he has no wife, but yet Mary can have a son without a husband. But in order for Allah to have a son, according to Surah 6:101, how can Allah have a son if he has no consort? And yet Mary has a son without a consort, without a husband. And so when the people see her in Surah 19, as she's carrying the child Jesus, the infant child Jesus, in her arms, they're saying to her, you've done, this is something that is extraordinary. How did you have a child? And the Arabic, of course, refers to something, the Arabic word fariya refers to something that is unheard, something extraordinary. So there's Mary having a child without a husband. She can have a child without a husband. But yet the Quran says one of the reasons why Allah cannot have a son is because he has no consort, and therefore he cannot have a son. And yet Mary can have a son without a consort. And so who is greater in this case? Allah, who can't have a son without a consort, or Mary, who had a son without a consort? And so all of this demonstrates to us, folks, that a lot of what we hear among our Muslim friends, a lot of the claims that they make about Islam and about Allah and so forth, upon closer examination, when we look at the Quran, what we find is that a lot of what our Muslim friends are saying and what a lot of Muslim apologists are saying about Allah is simply not supported by the very texts, the very authoritative texts that our Muslim friends look to. And so, folks, we trust that this has been educational, and trust that you have enjoyed this session. Please remember to subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. Other videos like this will be forthcoming. And so we would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. Like the video. And we look forward to seeing you again in our future sessions. Thank you for watching, and God bless you. Bye for now.